The question of what mode of currency, whether we're talking dollars, Kenyan shillings, Ghanaian cedis, is the most prevalent to use in the continent is at the heart of today's motion. And in today's motion, we have Mount Laverna versus Ofafa Jericho debating the motion of African states should adopt the use of a common currency for global trade. And I repeat the motion again, African states should adopt the use of a common currency for global trade. First speaker, team proposition, you have 3 minutes on stage.
My name is Frank Change Mugo from the Great Ofafa Jericho, here to propose the motion that states African states should adopt the use of a common currency for global trade. We ask ourselves, what is a common currency? A common currency is an intergovernmental agreement between two or more countries that have come together and decided to use a common currency. Secondly, what is global trade? Global trade is exchange of goods and services between countries and is made up of the total imports and exports of the participating countries. Why do I support this motion? First, I support the motion because if we have a common currency in the African states, it will promote price transparency. What is price transparency? Price transparency is that all goods, all services in the 55 countries in the African continent, all prices are going to be equal. Example, we have a shoe, a taffy shoe in Kenya being sold by 2,700. But we go in another country like South Africa. South Africa, we get it in 3,000 shillings. But if we have a common currency, this means that all prices will be equal, all prices will be equalized, and all prices for all goods and services will be equal. Secondly, we have the investment increase. If we have investment increase in Africa, if you have a common currency, if you have a common currency in Africa, it will increase investments. Why do I say this? First, we have the Safaricom Foundation. Currently, the Safaricom Foundation is in two countries, in Kenya and in Ethiopia. But if we have a common currency, the Safaricom Foundation, it will be easier. It will be more easier for them to spread their foundation into all the 55 countries in Africa. Another example, we take like another example. We have Walmart. Walmart, their growth, the shop grew because of the dollar bill. But if we have a common currency in Africa, that means that we take like Quickmart. Quickmart will spread very quickly. Like currently, Quickmart is in all counties. But if we have a common currency, they can expand their economic statistics and go to other countries. Then, thirdly, we have unification. If we have a common currency, this will unify trade, will unify development, will unify infrastructure in our countries. Why do I say this? If we take like a country, Congo, which is very high in their minerals in their country. We have like Kenya. Kenya is very high with the flower imports and exports. Thus, if we have a common currency, this means that the economic status of our continent will be the same. That's why I firmly stand with the motion that states that African states should adopt the use of a common currency for global trade. Join me as we say, together united, together we stand, divided we fall. Thanks.
Team opposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Is a medium of exchange accepted by countries as a measure of value of goods and services. Global trade is trade across geographical boundaries. African states are countries in the African continent. This is where Ophelia, representing the Mount Laverna Girls Secondary School, readily opposing the motion, African states should adopt the use of common currency for global trade. In my opinion, I don't think African states need a common currency. Some member states may have difficulties in high inflation rates, while others suffering from too low inflation rates. Inflation rate is a spike in general prices of goods and services in a particular region or country. Take, for example, in Europe. Although countries like Germany benefited from the euro, countries like Greece ended up suffering and having a devastating economic instability and imbalance. Trust me, I wouldn't want that for African states. According to Robert Mundell, a common currency saves various transaction costs. However, to abandon its own currency, a country gives up its ability to use its national monetary policy to respond to asymmetric shocks. Thus, it's not able to manipulate the supply and cost of money so as to achieve the desired economic outcomes. When an asymmetric shock occurs, the country will hence not be able to stabilize its national economy, thus will have a devastating economic status. A common currency will lead to brewing up of an economic crisis. A setup of a central bank of one currency in Africa have to act fair. However, sometimes a uniform policy may benefit some countries and prove disastrous for other countries. For example, as I said, Germany and European Union benefited the most from the euro, a devalued currency compared to the Deutschmark. This is because German exports became attractive to the rest of the countries, thus it further prospered. Other states, especially in southern Eastern Europe, could not devalue their currency to boost exports. Thus, their exports dwindled and their unpaid debts increased. Devaluation of currency may benefit one country while putting the other at a disadvantage. For example, if the exchange rate between the US dollar and the Kenyan currency is $1 to 137 Kenyan shillings, and Kenya devalues its currency by 10%, it will be $1 to 151 shillings. I hope it remains vividly and crystal clear that common currency is not the right way to take. Thank you.
Team Proposition, second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
I am Nelson Mutie from the great Ofafa, Jericho and High School, and I'm here to propose the motion that says African states should use a common currency in global trade. First of all, I would like to disagree with my opponent that said Africa is a state. For me, Africa is not just like a state, it's a village. Why am I saying this? This is because, as you can see, the current boundaries of African states were brought by the major European powers who came and colonized us and brought the boundaries in Africa. They are the one who brought the division of Africa. Let's take, if they would not come to Africa, we will not be divided. We will just be living as a village. And that's why I'm saying Africa is not divided into states. Then I come to my opponent to say that when using a common currency, we'll face asymmetric shocks. No, when we use a common currency, we will not face that. Common currency will help us to deal with those asymmetric shocks that she was talking about. Then I come to my first point, that when we use a common currency, the global trade will flourish. With a common currency, the global trade of Africa will flourish. Imagine, America has 50 states with a population of about 334 people, and look at their trade. It's growing day by day. Look at us, Africa. We have 55 states and a population of about 1.4 billion. Look, our population is 4 times more than the population of America. We have ready market. We have everything that it takes to match the trade of Africa with those other continents that are using common currency in their trade. We just have to adapt a common currency so as to develop our trade. With a common currency, we'll develop
we'll develop our trade and become superpower as those other countries that, the other continents that use common currency. Then, with a common currency, there will be flow of trade, free flow of trade. With a common currency, different currencies, with a common currency, it will be easier to trade. Different currencies are varying and exchange rates are an obstacle to free trading. Take, for example, I am a trader in Kenya. I'm moving and going to trade to Tunisia. With a common currency, it will be easier to move from one place to another to go and trade. When I'm moving to Tunisia, it will not need me to change this currency from this one, like changing Kenyan currency to Nigerian currency. That is sometimes tedious. Let's look at the exchange rates. They are now high, like changing one Tunisian dinar to Kenyan shilling. It's one Tunisian dinar is 44 Kenyan shillings. So, to me as a Kenyan trader, I will be disadvantaged. Like I need 44 Kenyan shillings so as to get one Tunisian dinar. So using a common currency, all these exchange rates will be put off, and it will be easier for me to trade across African currency. So I strongly and firmly propose that African states should use a common currency in global trade. Thank you.
Team opposition, second speaker, you have 3 minutes.
We should all adopt a change that does not work for a few, but for all. These are the words said by Nasa Wincher, not me, his words. Okay, according to what my fellow debater here has just said, the first opposer, he said that price transparency will be enhanced, but how will you be able to distinguish the quality of goods and services? For example, if I, from a Kenyan country, share a common currency with that of Uganda, how will I be able to distinguish the quality, for example, of a shoe? There are knockoffs of shoes and also other items that are found in various trade markets, but how will you be able to distinguish this? Secondly, company branches in different parts of economic parts are going to be set up, but there are different economic statuses within different countries. But how will you be able to set up, for example, Quickmart? As he said, you set up Quickmart supermarket in another country, yet you don't even know the economic status. Now, to start off with my points, ladies and gentlemen, when you adopt a common currency, there will be loss of financial autonomy in a country. However, what is financial autonomy? This is the freedom of a country to manipulate and control its own currency. However, due to this, of the adoption of a common currency, they won't be able to do so. For example, we all know South Africa and Egypt are great traders in the African states. However, when they devalue their currency, they won't be able to respond to asymmetric shocks. In addition to what I have just stated, a common currency will lead to the bringing up of an economic status. For example, I will take an example of Europe. When the European member states adopted a common currency, that was the euro, countries such as Germany, they had to devalue their currency. Their currency was the Deutschmark, which had a higher value than the euro currency. However, when they devalued their currency in order to adopt the euro currency, they now earned more little than what they used to do in the past. According to Robert Mundell, as my fellow debater has just said, yes, a common currency will lead to reduction of transaction costs. However, when you do this, there will be loss. There will be very multiple losses when it comes to net profits. For example, when the European member states adopted a common currency, countries like Greece, they suffered very badly. And do you know why? This is due to the adoption of a common currency. They are not able to adopt this common currency in order to use it for their own benefit. Yet, you still want to say that we need to adopt a common currency. According to the European Commission, when they adopted the euro currency, they were able to increase their trade from 8% to 16%. Insane, isn't it? However, you want us to implement such in our African states, yet
For example, Uganda, we have a higher currency value than theirs. And you want to tell me we should adopt a common currency? How long will it take for them to adopt this common currency? This has been Melissa Gishina representing the Mount Laverna Girls Secondary School. Thank you.
Team Proposition have been tasked to respond to the question of how can they ensure there will be no form of European interference when it comes to conducting or forming a unified form of currency. Team Opposition have been tasked to justify if having a singular uniform policy would also guarantee benefits and suffering all in the same measure of capacity across that same policy. Team Proposition, third speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Salutations to all and sundry. My name is Ferus Kipchumba and I'm representing Ofafa Jericho High School. I strongly propose that Africans should adopt the use of a common currency. Why I'm coming back to that question. Africans are coming together. That on 2011, it was only Muammar Gaddafi in Libya who wanted for the African currency, which was called gold dinar. But you are now coming as Africans together to form one currency that will help Africa grow, that will help our young youths. Let's say in Kenya, there are 75 population who are youth, and what is sad is that this population, the most are unemployed. But with this common currency, there will be easier transportation. This will give more Africans jobs, which will help them. For example, here in Kenya, there's a population of 75% who are youths. We can help those youths who don't have jobs. This common currency there will be no longer a cost for the tourism and business firms. This can help tourists who come to Africa because they will be attracted to Africa. Business firms will be encouraged. Investors will be encouraged to form companies that can help Africa grow, companies which will make our country go even further and break its bond. Thirdly, with this common currency, supporters and researchers from the Insider said that there will be a 1% increase for Africa, and that's just within a year. What about even a decade? What about a millennium? Africa will go far. Muammar Gaddafi wanted to advocate for this when he said that we should fight for our freedom as Africans. Why should we not allow this common currency? There have been many adjustments for formation of this currency. Back in 2012, the East African currency was supposed to be formed, but somehow in 2012 it was stopped. In West Africa, they are considering to form their common currency, but they are making some adjustment that they should not form this common currency. Thirdly, with this common currency, it will increase our value because with the gold in South Africa, with the oil in Nigeria, with all the minerals in Congo, we can make Africa grow further and even make it one of the greatest continents in the world. Fourthly, with this common currency, there will be investment increase because we know one problem for Africa is that there's production of similar goods in countries. With this formation of currency, this production of similar goods will be limited, allowing more companies to break their bonds and even go further. As my colleague said, there will be a quick month that will break its bonds and even go further. Fourthly, I would like to come back to my opposers when they said that distinguishing quality is hard. Distinguishing quality is easy. Distinguishing quality cannot stop us from making a common currency which will help people who are languishing in poverty because they are complaining of maize, sugar that is expensive. Right now, Kenyans, we are complaining about the high price of sugar, of maize. But with this common currency, there will be a statistics board that will lower this common currency. Thank you.
Team Opposition, third speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Starting off, Wainena Gabriela Chelsea from the Mount Laverna Secondary School. As I answer the question that my fellow debater as it was, or as you stated the question that said, how can you validate or justify that one country will suffer while the other will not due to a common currency? As it was, or is still, rather noted that countries like Greece suffer due to this, as they were not able to devalue their country to adopt the euro. However, Germany prospered as it traded its items all over the abroad in Europe countries. So, starting off, with my first point, there will be a loss in value of changing one currency to another. A global currency will mean all transaction costs related to the internal financial will be eliminated. What do I mean about this? Right now, when I travel to Zambia, right now, when I travel to Zambia, I want to send my Kenyan shilling to a Zambian man. I'll be needed to pay a certain amount of money so that Zambian man can receive the currency that I just sent to him. But when you have the same currency, it won't be able. Their economy will go down. Maybe I'm using the via M-Pesa. Via M-Pesa economy will go down. They won't be able to prosper through their economy. On to my second point, there will be time wastage. What do I mean by time wastage? All the 55 countries in Africa will be needed to sign papers so that all African countries should be having the same currency. What if Kenya doesn't want the same currency? We won't have the same currency. So, as I state, it will have time wastage signing the papers. We don't need to sign more papers. Kenya, we don't. It will take time for us to adopt the use of common currency. We don't need to adopt common currency. Our Kenyan shillings are best wherever they are. We need the best for Africa. We need best for Kenya. We don't need the worst. On to my last point. It will lead to economic divergence. I laid this with a popularity. Thus, common currency is sheep in a wat's clothes. According to the Wakipenda countries, with the currency union experiencing an economic divergence over time, some regions of countries may face economic downturns or financial crises. Do you want Africa to be at its best or at its worst? I think you need Africa to be at its best. So, my dear brothers, as I state, with all due respect, money makes man be mad. So, on to my very last point. A common currency can save all transaction costs, but a country abandoning its currency gives up the ability to use national monetary policy to respond to the shocks. All Kenyans, Africans, will need to adopt to the use of common currency. So we'll need to abandon our currency for the same currency. So that's why I think Africans, Kenyans, Zambians, Tanzanians need to have their own currency, but not the same currency. So join me, Wainena Gabriela Chelsea, as I oppose this motion. Thank you.
Team Proposition, you have 1 minute to make your closing remark.
How is signing papers stopping us from making Africa great? We should think first of making Africa great, because with this African currency, we can see that there will be more investment, there will be greater development, there will be easier transportation. It will make Africa be united. This will make Africa grow. For example, when the Europeans adopted this common currency called the euro, they got a 26% increase from 1999, which inflated to 52% increase in 2006. Why should us as Africans not act? The gold dinar was supposed to be the strongest currency, one of the strongest currency in the world. But look at what Muammar Gaddafi was killed by the NATO. Why should we not consider? When we allow this common currency, there will be open doors, because we'll see investors coming to Africa, wanting to invest more, wanting to make Africa great with this common currency which can sustain Africa, which can help our young youths get development. I believe that with this African currency, we can grow together, we can make Africa flourish once again. Thank you.
Team Opposition, you have 1 minute to make your closing remark.
I do not want all of you to be brainwashed by what they're saying. Yes, Muammar Gaddafi was assassinated, and you know why? Because all African states cannot agree on such a thing. That was in the past, that was in the 1960s, yet you want us to bring this in the 21st century. Will we all be able to agree on such a point? No, I don't think we'll be able to do so. However, when we eliminate this thought of adopting a common currency, I think it will be much better. As we all know, as he has just stated, the European member states got an increase. However, Are you saying that the other countries in the European member states, that is Greece and also Southeastern Europe, you're only looking at one point of view, that is Germany, which their trade increased by 8% to 16%. However, are you looking on the other side of Greece and also Southeastern Europe countries? Are you? For example, in Kenya, we have Uganda, Tanzania, which have a less currency value than ours. It will take a lot of time for them to adopt this new currency and to waste a lot of time. Yet you still want us to adopt this new currency? I don't think so. You think you picked the right side of the coin, but actually you didn't. So rethink your choices.
Ofafa, Jericho, Frank Change. You started very well on price transparency when we are trading globally and all that, increase in investments, unifications, and so on and so forth. But I felt that was the same thing to Nelson Mutie, good rebuttal, by the way, and saying that Africa is a village and all that. Ready market, us being a superpower, and actually you brought out the issue of the exchange rate at that point, and that was very well put out. Feruz Kipchumba, I could not relate what you meant by creation of new jobs and currency. You know, I didn't get that quite well. And the resources we have in Africa, it's bought in what? In dollars most of the time, right? So what if we actually can bargain as a block? Mount Laverna girls, where your voice was very well projected at the beginning, excellent definition. You mentioned about national monetary policy, and we are not able to manipulate. That in itself lost me off, because this whole thing of monetary policy is actually to stabilize, but when you use the word manipulate, it looks like we're actually cooking. And I was expecting to hear something about the AU, for example. What is the role of the AU? What has it done? What has it not failed to do? Melissa, talking about setting up quick mat, you lost me there. By the way, you lost me there, but you spoke about financial autonomy. That was a very good point. Loss in net profits, because we have a common currency, I didn't get that. What I'm trying to say is mastery of the subject or the motion itself. I think we desired a little more from this team. It didn't really come out as it should have, but well done to both teams.
What is your experience on stage?
I was a bit disappointed because I thought we were going to get the proposing side, because our teacher told us to choose tails, but we actually did the opposite. So when we went up on stage, I knew most of my points were for proposing. So when we went to oppose, I was kind of scared, because I had already arranged my points for proposing.
The experience on the stage was kind of tough, because it was my first time. It was our first time to go on stage, to be in front of people in a debate. It was a bit tough for us guys, but God was with us.
Actually, when it came to choosing, I was really hoping that we got the proposing side, but actually we got the opposing side, and we were prepared for also the opposing side, but our points they were more how do I say this? They had more weight on the proposing side than on the opposing side. So when it comes to explaining in the opposing side, we were a bit tensed, because we weren't really sure, because this topic it's a really tough topic.
I think it's a good start, but we will come together and say that we will better it up, so that because we have not been at our best, and we know that we can do more. So at the next time, we will better up ourselves and make sure that we'll do our best.
Yes, and I do have the results with me here, and the judges have awarded Mount Laverna girls 62%. A round of applause, please, for Mount Laverna. The judges have awarded Ofafa Jericho with 63.8%. A round of applause, please. And the winners of this debate are Ofafa Jericho with 63.8. A round of applause, please, for our winners. And we have come to the end of this debate, and we hope to see more coming forward from both teams. And again, it is goodbye from us here at the Debate Circle. Remember to check our social media handle for more of this form of content on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Instagram at the Debate Circle. Kwaheri.